his support staff. Through you, Madam Chair, to the Honorable Minister of Rummy. I specifically asked the question as it relates to GEBE because I noticed, like you said, there's hopes and plans that this will be rectified as the minister in charge of GEBE or over GEBE. Many times, like I stated in press briefing, the question would be directed to you, Honorable Minister, but yet I'm seeing the Prime Minister, and then when I realize the budget of Rummy, of course, is taking the hit, the CAPEX aspect of it, and I would like to know the Minister's thought on that. I would like to know your thought on the process of GEBE being placed in the CAPEX for Vrummy. I would also like to know your plans, Minister, for Vrummy. And I ask this specifically because the Prime Minister answered a question today, is the concession ordinance still valid? And I'll await certain answers and I'll dive into, I see you smile, dive into why in the public meeting. Also, are you aware, well, while we have the Honorable Minister of TEAD here sitting as an MP, are you aware that the responsibility and power that you have when it pertains to national crisis? And I hear the Prime Minister speak of a national crisis, but the power is implicated for the Minister of Romi in a national crisis. Also, the Minister of TEAD controls the tariff and pricing. So we have the two relevant ministers that can actually bring relief and change to the people. And yet, I only see the Prime Minister. So I would urge you, Minister of Rummy, not to throw your hands up, but definitely use some of those innovative ideas. You have innovative staff members, and you have a good controller right there. I don't know his necessary function in the cabinet, but if someone can bring budgetary ideas, I believe is that young man right there. So I would like to know the aspect of it, and again, I refer to the concession ordinance. And if we are speaking on an ordinance, then an ordinance is trumps the policies and decrees and stuff. So therefore, I would like to see the thought pattern on it. And then if you are not familiar with the ordinance, once you read the ordinance, then I would like for the Minister of Rummy to tell me how he intends to take control of the situation. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. That'll be it for now.
Thank you, MP Otley. Minister, you have heard the questions of the members of Parliament. I would just like to ask you, Minister, if you can just elaborate a little better for my understanding the answer to my question regarding the VNGI. If you can just elaborate on that for me. And then, Minister, you have several questions, and I would like to know how you would like to go about responding to these remaining questions. Actually, would you like to, are there any that you can answer like now or during the course of this evening while we have some other of your colleagues who will be coming, or would you want to send, which ones would you want to send in writing, as we have been doing with your colleague ministers? So, Minister, if you care to respond to that, and then I can decide how to continue. Minister Gumbs.
Yep. Thank you, Madam. Is it on? Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, there are a few we can, of course, give a quick response to, and of course, I'll provide those in writing as well as those that we don't respond to at this given time. I want to clarify the issue of the 1.2 million. So just to clarify, the water rights for this property were issued back in 2006, 2007. That decree was never deeded. So this is basically, as the Minister of Rummy, you can issue a decree that you have intent to give somebody land or water or land or water, that's all Rummy can give, land or water. But it still has to be deeded by the notary. That decree itself was never deeded, but the water has been used by the hotel for years up until now. So the idea, of course, is now the already in-use parcel can be issued, given the fact that it's been used for a number of years, under the condition, of course, that the retroactive amount 1.2 be paid, and that the canon will go up from $10,000 a year to $250,000 a year. So just to clarify, that 1.2 that I think the MP Duran had asked about, through Madam Chair, regarding the weighbridge, there's several. Let me clarify. There's several things. There's one, a weighbridge that was partially paid for some years back. There was some information about that weighbridge asked because it was never delivered, and it sort of died a natural death, so to speak. So upon taking office, we are actually now trying to figure out where that weighbridge is, because government did indeed pay some amount of money for it, and it has never come to government. So we have our legal team on that. Second to that, the NRPB is actually busy procuring for Vromi a weighbridge. That's something that was started rightfully so under the last administration, because we definitely needed a weighbridge to take into consideration what is actually coming onto the dump. Yeah, so in that event, NRPB also has a separate weighbridge coming for government, and we actually would need two weighbridges, so it's not necessarily in vain. On the point of MP Arian, he asked about the list of plan schedules, and I think it's very important to realize the following. Through you, Madam Chair, the road repair works are contingent, like so many other things, on other variables. So the person who was awarded the contract, Winwood Roads, at the same time also is busy doing emergency asphalt repairs on the airport. So our schedule, of course, is contingent on that one company, also noting that very few companies in St. Maarten can actually execute this type of work. So regarding the plan schedules, they are announced in advance when the road repairs will start. Months in advance is not necessarily possible because of all the different variables in St. Maarten. We have one or two companies that can handle this kind of work, and the large amount of construction that happens on this island, honestly, it's not possible. The asphalt project at the airport has taken some time. We were able to squeeze ourselves into the pocket that we did when fixing the Point Blanche Road. But of course, months in advance isn't necessarily very possible. So the standard has been, of course, we announce it at least a week in advance, minimum 3 days in advance. And given the fact that all the works are happening at night, there is very limited interruption. In all fairness, there was an interruption, if that's maybe what the minister is alluding to with the publishing of the schedules, where the harbor, where the road was temporarily closed permanently in the middle of the night. Why? Because a number of aggregates, so basically road materials, were being transported by a truck who did not follow the rules regarding how you cover and transport materials. So as such, the road had to be closed to avoid damaging the road that was being fixed in the process. So that was the only point in time where this really hindered free movement. And then, what else can I answer here? Yes, indeed. MP York, through you, Madam Chair, had a question regarding the motion of last March on the ruination of monuments. This was actually one of the things, I think this happened January 2023. I was still Monument Council Chair at that time. And the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sport at the time had to sort of continue conversation with the identified owner regarding how to address this, and it wasn't continued. So as this is under the purview of ECIs, of course, VROMI has a role to play in terms of whatever permits may be required. We will follow up with the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports. But I can tell you very honestly that when following the decision, following the discussion done where we found out who the owner was, there was not necessarily much done at the level, well, definitely at the level of the department, but not much done at the level of the minister at the time to pursue this case. And this is me speaking under my previous cap as minister, as not minister, of Monument Council Chair. And of course, the point of your drill cores, prior, post, and height surveys, I think, good idea. One thing through you, Madam Chair, when the roads were pouring the road, it was observed that, and that's to clarify, 10 to 12 centimeters is poured, and when compacted, it goes down to 4. So I actually have a picture where I myself was there 3 of the nights that were pouring. The reading was 9.8, and then when you compact it, it went down to 5.97, something like that, 6. In some places, in other places, was 6.5. So indeed, I think you mean something a bit more intense than just reading the screen on the monitor. So point well taken. And then with MP Otley, I think very strong point, and I think I've mentioned this several times, particularly to the last government when in my function as Foreign Affairs, we had a lot of discussions around the concession agreement. GEBE has a requirement of 2% renewable energy in the current concession agreement. This was something that was brought forward in my previous function. That's something that we all, I think most of the country is very much aware of now with this energy crisis. And of course, given what's going on, it does call the need towards addressing, is the concession agreement being adhered to? Very simply, it's not. In my discussions that I'm having currently with GEBE, because despite the Prime Minister's sort of very hands-on approach to addressing everything GEBE, I do indeed continue my regular discussions with GB, and there is a strong move towards renewables, and we're having a discussion around what options are there, simply because we cannot wait any longer. And I think what has become very much the kind of the modus operandi is that everybody is screaming renewables when it's a crisis, and once the generators come back on, everyone gets comfortable again with heavy fuel. Very much like how after Hurricane Irma, everyone speaks about change and resilience, and then once everybody gets current back on and they can bathe every day, then everyone gets comfortable again with just being, you know, non-neighborly and innovative. So I guess, indeed, with that, I think we have to address that concession agreement because we are in violation. Well, not we, I think we are contrary to what is in the concession agreement. And with that, Madam Chair, I will endeavor to answer all other questions, including these in writing, before the announcement of the public meeting. And I'd also like to say thank you, MP Duran, for reminding me, I think, in all the haste of answering these questions, for reminding us of the passing of Michael Brown. I think sometimes in all the work case, we forget the small things, but those small things matter a lot. So thank you again for reminding us about the human aspect of this work. And again, indeed, a lot of what we have been doing at VROMI and making the movements we've been making is partially, substantially due to the fact that we have had this position of head of permits filled for a very short time. But I think the impact of Michael Brown with the team and the sense of camaraderie and the vision that he shared in terms of where we need to go, that has very much driven VROMI positively forward. And I think it's definitely a void that everyone is feeling. You know, it's not easy to necessarily keep a team motivated because, you know, every time you look at VROMI's capacity issues, this is another blow again towards driving forward where we need to go. A very committed person, very ambitious, very hardworking, and he will be dearly missed by the ministry. So with that, we wish his family and of course the colleagues and myself, you know, you can't imagine losing a child, and of course his family, lots of them work in government. So, you know, you feel it